The year was 1965, and Murray the K's all-star shows on the stage of the Brooklyn Fox were what was happening, baby. Woodstock 60s sound, here typified by Little Anthony and the Imperials. It was a blend of Motown, Beatles, and the surfing sound of Southern California, groups like the Beach Boys and Jan and Dean. In 1965, Jan and Dean's Little Old Lady from Pasadena was solid gold, but this isn't the 60s. Yet Jan and Dean will be performing Little Old Lady tomorrow night once again for Murray the K's Brooklyn Fox reunion with groups like the Ronettes, Jay and the Americans, and the Four Tops. As strange as it may seem, a 60s revival is upon us.
When Beatlemania became a hit, I think we started to relive the 60s even more so. I think the first part of the 70s was the revival of the 50s. The latter part of the 70s is the revival of the 60s. The 70s doesn't have its own era. The 70s seem to have an era of revivals, of nostalgia.
For Jan and Dean, the 60s revival has a special meaning. Their career was cut short in the middle of the decade when Jan Berry was in an automobile accident so serious he was hospitalized for 6 years. This performance will be his comeback and hopefully the beginning of the group's second career. For them, the revival of interest in 60s music is easy to understand.
It really isn't all that complicated, and anybody can relate. Yeah. And that was that way in the 60s, and I think we've gone through all the hard times. Hopefully we've gotten all those out of the way, and everybody can just kind of have a good time.
To me, it's a little sad to look back, but at the same time, that you have to look back to have some fun. I wouldn't go through that again for anything in the world, but I wouldn't want to have missed it either.
Neither would we, Murray. The Brooklyn Fox is now a Con Ed building. Murray Kaufman is now a television producer, and we're all a lot older. But for tomorrow night, at least, the 60s will live again on stage at the Palladium Theater for the Brooklyn Fox reunion show. Jim?
Top of the rock and roll charts in the early 60s. Indeed, they seemed to be on top of the world, and then Jan had an accident that ended his career. Cousin Bruce Morrow visited both singers at Battery Park.
Jan and Dean are considered to be the real granddaddies of the surf and sound. They sold more than 10 million single records in their career, and the career was at its peak when Jan Berry was in a near-fatal automobile accident. Jan was hospitalized for 6 years, and last Saturday, they appeared in New York City for the first time they've been together in 13 years. I asked Jan Berry to tell us about the accident.
I just didn't quite understand everybody else we're talking about, and
due to brain damage.
Yeah.
From the accident.
Yeah, and I could talk a little bit, and that was hard though. I had to learn all over again how to speak, and it's rough. And a while back it was really rough for me, but I just continued. I went to Ranch Los Amigos, that's Downey in L.A., and it was therapy and reading and writing and talking once more, and that helped me a little bit. But
did you ever give up hope? Did you ever say it's going to be over, or did you realize that someday you're going to get back and do what you want to do, which is, of course, performing?
Well, 1 or 2 times I think I failed, but everything else I really kept going, and that was good.
Dean, are you excited and optimistic about your comeback?
Sure. You dream about it, but you never really know whether you're really going to get a chance to do it again. And I'm always amazed when you get another offer. And we keep thinking the offers are going to decrease, and pretty soon there'll be, no more offers, and we won't have to worry about it. But they keep coming in. Finally you say, we ought to do one. We ought to do it just to see what it's like again, even if it's just for one night.
I was cruising in my Stingray late one night when an XKE pulled up on the right.
Dead Man's Curve, one of their million sellers, was considered to be almost a prophecy about Jan's near-fatal accident. It's also the title of a TV movie about Jan and Dean's life.
You're running fine, let's come off the line.
Here now is the postscript. They did a show last Saturday and received 6 standing ovations. Here's a story about 2 brave and extremely stubborn guys. And I know that Jan and Dean's fans are very happy to see them back in surfing action again. I'm Bruce Morrow, News Center 4.
Dead Man's Curve.
I can hear them say,
You won't come back from Dead Man's Curve.
That's all we remember. See, we have to rehearse later on. And,
What are you guys going to do when you eventually grow up?
Grow
Never
up?
gonna grow up.
No, we stay at one point.
You didn't grow up, we're not going to grow up.
I agree. Well, thank you, guys. Jan and Dean, thank you very much.
Okay, Bruce.
Did you ask me who was in the show? I'm delighted you asked, Joe. We've got Jay and the Americans. We've got the Four Tops. We've got the Skyliners. We got Murray the K's original Diazans and Giazeros, the Ronettes. And an extra added attraction, I mean, it's Jan and Dean.
But I'll go you one better if you got the nerve. Let's race all the way to Dead Man's Curve. It's no place to play.
That's right, fellas and gals. It's Murray the K and a house full of headliners in a Brooklyn Fox reunion this Saturday night at the Palladium. And that's right, it's Jan and Dean. Their first New York appearance in 12 years. So this concert is more than a reunion. It's a triumph. It was 1966 when Jan and Dean's hit song Dead Man's Curve came frighteningly true. A crash. Jan Berry was in a coma for 21 days. When he regained consciousness, he couldn't speak. He couldn't move. He taught himself to talk, to walk, and now to sing.
And all the Jack could see was the 6 tail lights.
I think that on the whole, as Dean and me, we're going to get together and really meet the Parmos of good things and good songs, and you know, you don't know if we're going to make it, but we're going to try. You know?
It's the little old lady from Pasadena. Come on, Granny, go. Come on, Granny, go. Come on, Granny, go.
The California sound came during the earliest days of rock and roll, and the singing team who rode the crest of that was Jan and Dean. The 2 blonde teenagers made the top of the record charts for nearly 8 years, until a terrible accident ended it all, and everyone thought forever. Well, in tonight's Whatever Happened To report, Steve Bauman tells us about a near miraculous recovery and a rehearsal for the first Jan and Dean performance in more than 12 years.
A fast car under blue skies on its way to a surfboard beach party. The images Jan and Dean evoked in the first years of the 60s were of innocence, excitement, and fun. And while many dismissed them as suntan silliness, others heard humor in their music, satire in their symbols of the teenage pop scene. Whatever the so-called message in their songs, from the first ones cut in the back of a garage, Jan and Dean sold more than 20 million records till a car crash in 1966 left Jan completely paralyzed and suffering brain damage. After 6 months in a coma came years of agonizing therapy, during which he even had to relearn to speak. But this afternoon, against all the odds, Jan Berry and Dean Torrance were rehearsing together for the first time in 12 years, preparing for a performance tomorrow night at a rock revival in Lower Manhattan's Palladium. Dean, on the right, has had a successful second career as a graphics designer and has worked occasionally with other musical groups. Only in the past few months has Jan felt recovered enough to try a couple of singing engagements, and though they've had many offers to appear together before, they just decided a few days ago to accept this one. Jan told us that it was music that helped pull him through, that it was actually part of his therapy.
What he did, he took a cassette and just like he did a little story, and also he typed up the same story so that I could listen to it and read it at the same time. And
Did they put it to music or something?
Yeah, and it was 1971, and a little story about the Beatles breaking up, and it was parallel to the music, and
that helped you coordinate
and I would get the thoughts better and understanding more.
Jan, early on in your rehabilitation, did you always believe, despite what the doctors were saying, that there'd come a time when you'd be able not only to function normally, but to perform again as well?
A while back, I didn't know that I would perform, but I didn't really think about that when I was in the hospital, just recovering. But then later on, it was kind of willpower and the experience to move it on.
Money?
No, really, because I just love music, and so I had to perform and being back to almost normal, but that's hard to do, but I'm going to try.
Did you expect Jan one day to be physically able to work with you again?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I expected him to be readier than...
Despite what the doctors were saying?
Oh, indeed.
Why?
No doubt. That's the way he is. I knew he'd beat the doctors.
Jan and Dean don't view their performance tomorrow night as simply an exercise in nostalgia. They believe teenagers still love the simple, happy sound their music offers. They are considering working together again on some new songs and perhaps other performances. Whatever they do, each says he'll be looking ahead, not back, and the future is rock and roll. This is Steve Bauman, Channel 5 News.